July 1969. Las Vegas, Nevada International Hotel, the biggest stage in America. 2,000 people in the audience. All eyes on the man in black. Black hair, sweat on his forehead, hands on the microphone. Elvis Presley, 8 years away from the stage. This is the comeback night. The night that should define everything. But 240,000 miles away, another man is about to make history. Neil Armstrong, lunar surface, live, on television, the entire world watching. Except the 2,000 people in that room. Except Elvis. In this moment, two stories collide. One man stepping on the moon, another man stepping on stage. And what Elvis did when he found out, what he said, the reaction that was caught on film, reveals something no one expected. Something about fame. Something about relevance. Something about being human in a superhuman moment. But before we get there, you need to understand what was at stake. Because this wasn't just a show. It was a bet. A last chance. And Elvis knew it. Let's start 3 hours earlier. 6 p.m. Backstage at the International Hotel. The dressing room bigger than most apartments. Mirrors everywhere. Hot lights. Clothes hanging on racks. Elvis sitting in a chair. Alone. Hands shaking. Not from nerves, from fear. Real fear. 8 years is too long. 8 years making bad movies. 8 years away from what matters. From what he was born to do. Sing. Live. For real people. But the world has changed. 1969 isn't 1957. Rock and roll isn't his anymore. It belongs to the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Hendrix. Elvis knows this. Everyone knows this, including Colonel Tom Parker, sitting there in the dressing room, cigar in his mouth, calculating gaze. He's done the math. $400,000 for 4 weeks, 57 shows, absolute record. But money doesn't matter if nobody shows up. And what if they show up out of morbid curiosity? To see the old Elvis? The washed-up Elvis? The king who lost his crown? Parker lights another cigar, says nothing, doesn't need to. Elvis feels the weight. Knock on the door. Red West enters. Part of the Memphis Mafia. Friend since high school. Bodyguard. Confidant. Red looks at Elvis. Boss, there's a TV out there. Elvis lifts his head. So? Red hesitates. They're saying Armstrong's gonna land on the moon tonight. During the show, silence. Parker chews his cigar. Elvis doesn't respond, just looks at the mirror. His own reflection. Perfect hair, perfect outfit. But the eyes know. Tonight, he competes with the moon. Quick thought. Have you ever had to do something important at the worst possible time? Drop a comment. 7:45 p.m. Showroom at the International Hotel. 2,000 chairs, all occupied. People in tuxedos, long dresses, TV cameras in the back, journalists from across the country. This isn't just any show. It's an event. Elvis's return. But at the tables, something strange. Waiters passing information, whispers. Apollo 11 is descending. Armstrong is on the ladder. People look at their watches. Some want to leave, see the TV, witness history. But they stay, because they paid good money, because they want to see Elvis, or because they want to say they were there, in the showroom, on the impossible night. When two worlds collided. 8 p.m. Lights go down. The band starts. Blue suede shoes. Guitar ripping, drums thundering. And then, he appears. Elvis Presley, black jacket, black pants, no rhinestones, no costume, just him. And the microphone. The audience explodes, screams, applause, flashes. Elvis grabs the microphone, looks at the crowd, and sings, strong voice, steady, like he never stopped. Like the 8 years don't exist, but there's something different, an urgency, a hunger. He's not just singing, he's proving something, to them, to himself, to the Colonel, to the world that thinks he's finished. Third song, all shook up. Elvis center stage, sweat dripping, movements people remembered, the hips, the knees, but more controlled, more mature, still powerful, the audience on their feet, screaming, and in the back, a TV producer, phone to his ear, receiving information. Armstrong just left the lunar module. The man is on the moon, now, this exact moment. He looks at the stage. Elvis singing, looks at the audience. Everyone focused on Elvis. Nobody knows. That history is being made in two places, at the same time. But only one can be witnessed, and they chose Elvis. 9:15 p.m., intermission, Elvis backstage, towel around his neck, drinking water, heavy breathing. It's going well. He can feel it. The audience is with him. Red West runs in, boss. Elvis looks up. It happened. Armstrong stepped on the moon, 15 minutes ago. Elvis freezes, water in the glass, hand frozen. Stepped on the moon. Red confirms. The whole world saw it, on TV. Elvis looks at the floor. 5 seconds of silence, then laughs. A strange laugh, not from happiness, from understanding. And the show? Red hesitates. Nobody left, boss. They're all still there. Elvis drinks the water, places the glass on the table, looks at the mirror. Then let's give them something to remember. Because this is the part nobody tells, the choice Elvis made in that moment. He could have stopped the show, announced it, celebrated, shared the historic moment. It would have been the patriotic thing to do, the American thing. But Elvis didn't stop, didn't say a word, went back to the stage and sang like the moon didn't exist, like nothing else mattered, except that stage, those people, that music. 9:30 p.m., second half of the show, Elvis looser now, talking to the audience, jokes, stories, but at no point mentions the moon, at no point stops, Suspicious Minds, the new song, not officially released yet. Elvis sings it with everything, voice tearing on the high notes, whole body involved, and it's here, in this song, that the camera captures it, the moment, the look. For 3 seconds, between verses, Elvis looks at the ceiling, not at the lights, beyond them, as if he could see through the ceiling, through the sky, to the moon, and then returns, to the song, to the audience, to Earth, that look, captured on film, stored in the NBC archives, is everything. There are no words, no statement, just a man looking up, acknowledging the impossible, and choosing to stay here, on the ground, doing what he knows how to do. 10:45 p.m. Show ends, 10-minute standing ovation. Elvis sweaty, exhausted, radiant, he bows, thanks them, leaves the stage. Backstage, the Colonel is smiling. It worked. They worked. Box office record, reviews already being written. The king is back. Elvis proves he's still relevant. The night Las Vegas will never forget. But Elvis doesn't read reviews. He sits in the dressing room, turns on the TV, images of the moon, Armstrong, Aldrin, the American flag. One small step for man. Elvis watches in silence, Red beside him. You think they know? Elvis looks at Red. Know what? That you were singing while they were stepping on the moon. Elvis smiles, tired. No, and it doesn't matter. Red frowns. It matters, boss. You competed with history and won. Elvis turns off the TV. I didn't win anything, Red. They went to the moon. I went to the stage. There's no competition in that. But there is choice. And everyone out there chose you. Elvis shakes his head. They chose what was available. If there'd been a TV in that room, half would have left. Silence. Red doesn't argue. Because Elvis is right, and Elvis knows he's right. This is the truth nobody wants to admit. On a night when man conquered the impossible, when humanity reached another world, 2,000 people chose to stay in a dark showroom watching a 34-year-old rock singer. Not because Elvis was more important, but because he was there, present, real, tangible. The moon was history, But Elvis was experience, and in a world increasingly mediated by screens, in a future where everything would be recorded, broadcast, reproduced, those people had something no one else would have. They were in the room, with Elvis, live, in the moment. That can't be replicated, can't be broadcast, can only be lived. 11:30 p.m. The dressing room empties. The Memphis Mafia leaves. The Colonel goes to count money. The band packs up. Elvis remains, sitting, staring at the blank TV screen, his reflection in the dark glass. Joe Esposito walks back in, another member of the inner circle, road manager, organizer, friend. Joe sits down, doesn't ask permission, just sits. They sit in silence for 2 minutes. Finally, Joe speaks. You know what's crazy? Elvis doesn't look at him. What? Joe leans forward. In 100 years, people will remember tonight for the moon, not for you. Elvis nods slowly. I know. Joe continues. But the people in that room, they'll remember you, not the moon. Elvis looks at Joe. For now. Joe shakes his head. Forever, boss. Because they were here. They felt it. That's different. Elvis stands, walks to the window, Las Vegas below, lights everywhere, neon, signs, cars, life continuing, as if nothing happened, as if a man didn't just walk on the moon, as if Elvis didn't just prove he still matters. Everything keeps moving. You ever think about it, Joe? About what? About mattering, really mattering. Joe doesn't answer immediately. He knows this mood. Late-night Elvis, philosophical Elvis, the one who questions everything. Finally, Joe speaks. You matter to a lot of people, boss. Elvis turns around. For how long? The question hangs in the air because this is what Elvis really fears. Not failure tonight, but irrelevance tomorrow. Armstrong's footprint will be on the moon for millions of years. What will Elvis's footprint be? A few hit songs people forget? Movies nobody watches anymore? Memories that fade when the people who hold them die? Joe stands up, walks to Elvis, puts a hand on his shoulder. You know what Armstrong said up there? Elvis shakes his head. He said it was one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Elvis waits. Joe continues. You know what that means? It means he didn't do it alone. He did it for everyone. With everyone. Elvis looks out the window again. I'm not doing anything for everyone, Joe. I'm just singing. Joe squeezes his shoulder. No. You're giving people a reason to feel something. In a world going crazy, in a time when everything's changing, you're giving them something constant, something real. Elvis doesn't respond, because part of him knows Joe is right, but another part knows the truth. The world is moving on, with or without him. July 21st, 1969, 2 days later. The newspapers arrive. Elvis sits in his suite, penthouse floor. The Colonel brings a stack, drops them on the table, front pages, all of them. New York Times, Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, Boston Globe, every single one. The same image, Armstrong on the moon, the American flag, the lunar module. Elvis scans the pages, looking, searching, finally finds it. Page 47, New York Times, small column, 3 paragraphs. Elvis Presley returns to live performance. That's it. No mention of the timing. No mention of the coincidence. No mention of the impossible choice those 2,000 people made. The Colonel lights a cigar. Could have been worse. Elvis looks up. How? Could have been page 50. Elvis throws the paper down, stands up, walks to the window. The Colonel watches. You want me to call someone? Get you better coverage? Elvis shakes his head. It doesn't matter. The Colonel removes the cigar. Then why are you upset? Elvis turns around. I'm not upset. You are. Elvis sits back down, picks up the paper again, reads the 3 paragraphs. Elvis Presley, 34, returned to live performance last night at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. The singer, who has spent recent years focusing on film work, performed for a sold-out crowd of 2,000. Reviews were positive, with audiences responding enthusiastically to both classic hits and new material. That's it, his entire comeback. 3 sentences. On page 47, while the moon takes every front page, the Colonel sits down across from him. You know what I think? Elvis doesn't look up. The Colonel continues anyway. I think you're looking at the wrong thing. Elvis looks up now. The Colonel points at the paper. You're looking at what they wrote. You should be looking at what happened. What happened is I got buried. What happened is you sold out every show for the next month. What happened is you proved you can still fill a room. What happened is you're back. Elvis tosses the paper aside. Until the next thing. Until the next big event that makes everyone forget. The Colonel leans back. So what? You want to be the moon? Elvis doesn't answer. Because the truth is yes. Part of him wants that. Wants to be the thing people remember. The thing that matters. The thing that lasts. But he's not the moon, he's just Elvis, and maybe that has to be enough. The Colonel stands up. I got meetings. You gonna be okay? Elvis nods. Yeah. The Colonel leaves. Elvis sits alone, picks up the paper again, stares at the moon photo. Armstrong in his suit, stepping down, making history. Elvis wonders what that feels like. To know with absolute certainty that what you're doing will matter forever. To know that your footprint will outlast you. To know that 1 billion people are watching. He puts the paper down, looks at his hands. The same hands that held the microphone 2 nights ago. The same hands that made 2,000 people forget about the moon. For a few hours, in a dark room. Those hands don't look historic. They look tired. But they're his hands. And they're all he has. August 1st, 1969. 13 days after the moon landing, Elvis's 15th show at the International, another sold-out crowd. But something's different tonight. A woman in the 3rd row, mid-30s, elegant dress. She's crying before Elvis even starts. Elvis notices during the 2nd song, tries to ignore it, but can't. During the 4th song, he walks to her side of the stage, sings directly to her. She covers her face, crying harder. After the song, Elvis kneels down. What's wrong, honey? The woman looks up, mascara running. She tries to speak, can't. Too emotional. Finally gets it out. My husband, he died 3 weeks ago. Elvis's face changes. I'm so sorry. She wipes her eyes. He loved you, your music. He wanted to see this show so badly. Elvis reaches out, takes her hand. He's here. I promise you he's here. She nods, crying. Elvis stands, walks back to center stage. The band waits. Elvis looks at them, changes the set list. Next song, Are You Lonesome Tonight? The slow one, the emotional one. He sings it directly to her. Every word, every note. The room's silent, everyone watching, everyone feeling it. When it ends, the woman is still crying, but different now. Not from grief, from gratitude, from connection, from being seen. After the show, Joe finds Elvis. That was beautiful, boss. Elvis doesn't respond, just sits there, thinking. Joe waits. Finally, Elvis speaks. You know what I realized tonight? What? The moon landing was for everyone, but it wasn't personal. It couldn't be. Joe nods slowly. But this, what I do, it's personal, every single time. That's right. Elvis looks at Joe. That woman wasn't crying about the moon. She was crying because her husband's gone and she needed to feel something. Joe sits down. And you gave her that. Elvis shakes his head. No. I just showed up. She did the rest. Silence. Then Elvis continues. That's what I'm good at. Showing up, being there, in the room, with people. Joe smiles. That's not a small thing, boss. Elvis stands up, walks to the mirror, looks at himself. No, it's not the moon, it's not history, but it's real. And maybe, he thinks, that's the point. The moon is spectacular, unreachable, perfect, but distant. Elvis is flawed, reachable, imperfect, but present. And in that moment, he understands. Both matter, in different ways, for different reasons. The next morning, July 2nd, another newspaper. This time, Variety, entertainment industry paper, front page. Elvis Presley's Vegas triumph. The king reclaims his throne. Full article. Photos, quotes from audience members. One quote stands out. I had the choice between watching the moon landing on TV or seeing Elvis live. I chose Elvis. I'll never regret it. Elvis reads it 3 times, sits back, smiles. Not a big smile, a small one. The kind that means understanding. The kind that means acceptance. The kind that means peace. Years later, 1977, TV interview. Reporter asks about that night. Elvis, did you know man was stepping on the moon while you were singing? Elvis lights a cigarette, thinks. Yeah, I knew. And did that bother you? Competing with something so big? Elvis laughs. I wasn't competing with anything. The moon's always been there. I was just trying to sing without forgetting the lyrics. The reporter pushes. But surely it must have felt strange. The whole world watching history while you performed. Elvis looks directly at the camera. You know what I think? I think history happens every day. In big ways and small ways. Armstrong walked on the moon. That's history. But that woman in the 3rd row who came to my show after her husband died, that's history too. Her history. The reporter seems confused. So you don't think the moon landing was more important? Elvis takes a long drag. I didn't say that. The moon landing was incredible, changed everything. But importance isn't one size fits all. To NASA, the moon mattered. To that woman, my show mattered. Both are real. The answer is classic Elvis, self-aware, thoughtful, but the interviewer doesn't get it. Moves on to the next question. But the camera caught something. In Elvis's eyes, a flicker of sadness. Not for himself, for the question itself. For a world that needs to rank everything. That needs one thing to be more important than another. That can't hold 2 truths at once. The footage from that night stored in NBC archives was discovered in 1989, 20 years later, during a cleanup of old tapes. An editor watched it, frame by frame, and saw the look. Those 3 seconds. Elvis looking up, recognizing, accepting, returning. But there was more footage. Footage nobody talks about. From earlier in the night, 6:47 p.m. backstage, Elvis alone in the dressing room. The camera accidentally left rolling. Elvis doesn't know he's being filmed. He stands at the mirror, adjusts his collar, runs his hand through his hair, then stops, just stares at himself for 30 seconds, unmoving. Then quietly, almost to himself, he speaks. Just do your job, Elvis. That's all you can do. He straightens his jacket, takes a deep breath, and walks toward the door. The camera catches him pause, hand on the doorknob. Another moment of stillness. Then he opens it and becomes Elvis Presley, the performer, the star, the king. That footage stayed buried until 2003, included in a documentary called Elvis: The Private Moments. When people saw it, they understood. Elvis wasn't competing with the moon. He was competing with himself, with his own legacy, with his own fears. And that night, in that room, with those 2,000 people, he won. Not against Armstrong, not against history, against his own doubt. This clip was shown at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2005, part of an exhibit on the 1969 comeback. Next to it, a TV played the moon landing. Side by side, 2 moments. One screen showing Armstrong's first step, one screen showing Elvis's backstage moment, and visitors would stand there, watching both, understanding finally. That July 20th, 1969 wasn't about choosing, it was about witnessing. Two different kinds of bravery, two different kinds of history, both valid, both necessary, both human. Today, the International Hotel no longer exists. It was demolished, rebuilt, renamed. But the recording remains. In the archives, on the internet, accessible, and every time someone watches, they see the same thing. A man making a choice to stay on Earth, while others reach for the stars, and discovering that both are necessary, both are valid, both are human. The woman from the third row, her name was Patricia Morrison. She lived until 1998, died at 64. Cancer. But before she died, she gave an interview to a local Memphis paper about Elvis, about that night. The reporter asked her about the moon landing. "Did you regret missing it?" Patricia smiled. "I didn't miss anything. I saw what I needed to see, but it was history. Man on the moon." Patricia shook her head. "History is what changes you. That night changed me. Elvis changed me. That's my history." The reporter didn't understand, wrote it off as fan devotion. But Patricia knew. She knew something the reporter didn't. That history isn't just big moments. It's personal moments. The moments that save you, that heal you, that remind you you're not alone. For Armstrong, walking on the moon was his history. For Patricia, Elvis's voice in that dark room was hers. Both mattered. Both were real. Both were necessary. Final thought. Have you ever chosen to be present for something small instead of witnessing something big? When you chose connection over spectacle? Tell us in the comments. Because in the end, the lesson from that night isn't about Elvis versus the moon. It's about recognizing that each of us is on our own stage, doing our own part, while history happens elsewhere. And that doesn't make us smaller, just human, just real, just here. And maybe, just maybe, being here is enough. Elvis died in 1977, Neil Armstrong in 2012, Patricia Morrison in 1998. All three are gone now, but what they represented remains. The spectacular and the intimate, the global and the personal, the impossible and the essential, each necessary, each valuable, each human. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, this is the moment. Because these stories, these forgotten details, these human lessons, that's what we do here, every week. Elvis stories you've never heard, moments that reveal who he really was. Not the myth, not the legend, the man. The one who chose to sing while the world watched the moon. The one who understood that presence matters as much as greatness. The one who knew that showing up is its own kind of heroism. And unfortunately, they don't make men like Elvis Presley anymore.